Hey Laura, welcome to Unspirit Talks.
Stephanie, delighted to be here. Me
I
connecting.
the little baby is adorable. She's so cute. And I'm excited to chat today because I think this topic is so important. And we're going to be talking about money and investing and building wealth. And it's something I've always been very passionate about. Like I've always been the saver and wanting to create like stability and financial success. So I think a lot of people are going to benefit from all of your wisdom.
Amazing. I'm excited to get into it. All things money, key money.
Yes. Now, if you can tell us a little bit about your story and how you became a wealth mentor.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I think the origin of all of this journey was back when I was in school being like, what am I going to do with my life? I had grown up in Ireland and my mom was a stay-at-home mom and I love her for that. She was amazing. Like I am who I am because of her. But I always saw that she really struggled to have any of her own financial sovereignty, like always asking dad for money. And they would always create this tension and she never had her own ownership over it. And so she always wanted for us to like have our own independence. And so when I came to that critical time of like, choose what you want to do with your life at 18, I was like, I have no idea. Like, my parents weren't from a background where we had connections or knew much about the business world or corporate world. But I remember one of my friends saying she was going to go study finance at university. And I thought, finance, money, I mean, that makes sense. Like, I want to make a lot of money. I want to have my own independence. I will go and do that. And so I studied finance at university and then went on to qualify as a chartered accountant and was working in this big consulting firm. So I had done like everything on paper that was like the strategy for success, at least the kind of old school way it was. And I would look at my bank account and be like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is not matching up to all the work and everything that happened. And around the same time, so I was like looking for a change. I came across the teachings of Bob Proctor, back on an app, which I don't know if you're familiar with, called Instagram, which was just new at the time.
I remember.
Yeah, so I was sort of following him and just like loved his content. Saw that he was doing this event in Toronto called The Matrix, and was like, I need to be there. Like, I don't even know what he's teaching at this, but I was so convinced that this was going to unlock this next level that I was looking for. And so, to the kind of complete disbelief of my family and friends, I was like, I've taken out a 15 grand loan. I'm flying to Toronto on my own, and I'm going to go and study with this guy that I've
Wow.
across his work like a month ago. So this pattern of them thinking I'm a bit crazy for these kind of decisions, it kind of follows me through my adulthood. I went there and when I came back, like his teachings were so incredible and so powerful, but the biggest thing that shifted for me was when I came back, I was a different version of me.
Mm.
So this identity shift had completely transformed how not only I saw myself, but what I saw was possible for my life. And so again, to the disbelief of my company and those around me, I like quit my job, was like, there's something bigger for me. I believe it, burn the bridges. I'm focusing on what I want. There's more abundance in the world, and this isn't it. And within just a couple of weeks, I like manifested this dream career for myself, which led me to be traveling around the world, like flying first class, which I'd never in my life imagined. But there I was flying first class and staying at these five-star hotels and completely just got catapulted into this different world where all of a sudden I was rubbing shoulders with multi-millionaires, which was not a world I was from. I had
Mhm.
and a couple of billionaires, and I was taking board positions of companies. And I really had taken Bob's teachings and applied them to my career in the corporate world as a woman. But the reason I share all that is because every single boardroom I would walk into, because I had accelerated so fast at a young age, I became very aware that I was always the only woman in the room.
Mhm.
And it really started to bother me. And like I remember once walking into a room in Oslo and there was another woman and I was like, oh my God, this is great. Like, hey. And then she was the assistant taking notes and she just stayed quiet in the corner. And I was just like, oh, like there has to be more for us. Like there has to be more than this. And then couple that with hearing the statistics, like it's going to take 120 years for gender equality. And I just was like, this isn't okay. There has to be something different. Now, this little missus here, who's only 3 months old, was a dream of mine 10 years ago. And I thought, how could I ever look at my daughter in the eyes and be like, yes, honey, you can be anything you want to be in the world. And then know so deeply like all the hurdles and this
Mhm.
inequality in 120 years. Like, are you joking me? So I was like, okay, I don't want to just sit here and complain about it because that's not going to do any good. Let me start taking action. What can I do to create a change? And honestly, Stephanie, like I had no idea because like I was from Cork. I was just like high flying in my career. I was very narrow focused on just climbing that corporate ladder.
Yeah.
How am I going to make a change here? But I just started coaching other women in the industry, like what I had learned, what I had applied, teaching them things around law of attraction, personal development, creating the reality that you want. So coaching them, speaking at events, working with their leadership team. And then all of that I was just doing because it was what I was passionate about and I felt very mission driven around, started getting recognized by like the Financial Times and Yahoo Finance. And I got like these big awards around it. And then I got invited to speak at Forbes all around female empowerment. And it really just was this like wake up call from the universe of like, hey, Laura, there might be something over here that might be calling you. And when I looked at my career, even though it had given me so much and I'd had an absolute blast flying up the corporate ladder in finance, it wasn't what my heart was for. It wasn't what my soul is here to really pursue. You know, that wasn't my destiny, but this was
Mm.
working with women, supporting women. And so initially, it really started off with female empowerment, like how can I support more women? And then the more I started working with women, the more I started coaching women, it became very fundamentally obvious to me that female empowerment without financial empowerment, we're just talking fluff, right? If a woman's not financially empowered, she doesn't actually have the independence and the sovereignty to make her own decisions and to dictate her own path. And so that was where I was like, okay, good one, universe. Now I know why I studied finance, the accounting, the finance route mixed with Bob and personal development. It all culminated together to be like, this is what I can uniquely deliver to women and support them in this area.
That's amazing. It's like you're integrating the financial wisdom with that energetics piece, and it blends like seamlessly. And I'm sure you are helping so many people. And I think really it's true that people need to know about this stuff. Like women need to know how to really tune into their intuition, like you did, follow their heart, trust the journey, but also focus on the abundance that they can build for themselves. And I wanted to know, how does money and energy go hand in hand?
I mean, how does it not? It's kind of crazy to me. And so this is what I love about what I get to do is actually bring the world of, the inner work. Because like we create a reality from the inside out, full stop. It just no one can ever try and convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
That is how things happen. But we also live in a 3D world. So I'm like, we get to create and attract the abundance and the opportunities to, make more money and increase our income and all of these things from the inside out. So that's the inner work. But then we live in a 3D world. So when we have it, we need to know what to do with it. And so for me, it's always like, well, one without the other just doesn't really make sense because you're either walking around with this heavy coat of money limitations, trying to invest a little bit. And investing is amazing, but if you're only always able to put aside 100 quid, it's going to take a very, very long time to get to financial freedom. But if you're just investing and you're not working on the mindset, but then equally, if you're just working on the mindset and you're clearing your limitations, and that's awesome, you're making more money, but you don't have a system or a structure to hold it, then it's just going to be likely either sitting in your bank account, losing to inflation, maybe it's in a savings account, or maybe someone else is managing it for you. Maybe you're hiring a financial advisor and paying a load of fees, or there's so many things that can happen. And I've seen it time and time again with women who've come to me and they're like, I made 1 million in my business last year and I don't know what happened to it. Like there's
Mm.
not like it's gone, or it's just like half of it sitting in an account. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So, what I really love to be able to show women is that we create our abundance, we create our richest life from the inside out, and we each get to define what our richest life looks like. That's different for all of us. And then we can support it with the strategies and the systems to sustain that. So it's not these highs and roller coasters or like spending spurges. And we can, yeah, we can have a really healthy relationship where we feel very supported by the money that we have. And it gets to work for us. And that's the beauty of investing.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned savings account because for me, that was the only thing I had my money in. Like I was always want to save money ever since I was little. I always put like any birthday money, everything aside, right? Never spent anything on myself. Everything just went in a savings account. So I was able to buy amazing things. Like I bought a brand new car by myself, all this stuff that I was able to like hold and attain. I still only dealt with savings accounts. And in my mind, there was nothing that ever said invest in the stock market, like because it was scary. Like, why would I invest in something that could go up and down? And my family never did that either. So, like, the stories that I heard were a lot about scarcity, right? Like, money scarcity, saving, like, you need to make sure everything's stable. And so, coming from that story of like, save your money, scarcity, it's scary to do the opposite. But I have to say, I think 5 years ago was the first time I actually started investing in the stock market. I did it with like an Apple stock and I was like, oh, I'll just put $300 in. I was like, it's not a ton of money, but it's something. And what I saw was that it shot up way more than any of the money I had on my savings account. And my husband was like, see, I told you. He's like, you are losing money if you're keeping your money in the savings account. And in my brain, I was like, no, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But over time, obviously, then I saw the gains and started, increasing and adding it. But I think a lot of people might be like me and have no idea about how much better it is to invest or switch your mindset in terms of
Yeah.
savings. What is the biggest limiting story you've seen in your experience when it comes to saving and investing and that type of thing?
Yeah. I mean, so much of what you just touched on, I'm like nodding, like dashboard, being like, yes, yes, yes. Because like I was the same, taught to save. That's what the good girl does.
Yeah.
Careful with your money, mind it, be careful, save your money. And so you and I know we're not alone
Yeah.
with the same stories. But something I'm really fascinated with at the moment, and I'm bringing it more and more into my programs, is around this like good girl detox. And one of the biggest ways that I think we've been programmed is around perfectionism. It's one of the ways the good girl kind of pops up. And I think that perfectionism um, can play out in our investing journeys too, where if we don't feel like we don't know everything, then we're going to get it wrong. And then we couple that with the myths of the stock market's really risky. It's like gambling. You could lose all your money. It's just for really rich people. You need tons of money to get started. It's more of like a bro finance, like that's kind of more of like a masculine world that's not really as available for women. We don't talk about it typically as much. You can understand why so women are very intimidated by it. And there's a whole other language that the financial industry uses on purpose, by the way, to make it
Oh,
way more confusing than it needs to be. Like,
interesting.
just make up new words to describe things. So then it's like, oh, I couldn't possibly do that myself. No, I better hire a financial advisor who's going to charge me a seemingly low fee, but adds up to be thousands and thousands over the course of your investment life. So I better outsource to them. But it's like, no, like you need to, like, there's a whole world of financial education that you could delve into. Spend 4 years studying it. Like,
Mhm.
can teach someone from start to finish everything they need to know in like under 6 hours. And that's being
Wow.
very generous and kind of luxurious with our time together. You don't need to know a massive amount. You need to know the key things of how the stock market works, what happens when the stock market goes down, what not to do, like don't sell when the stock market drops, kind of thing. How your investments work, what your different types of options are, and why it's not risky, and why, stock picking for the majority of people is actually not a good idea, and what the alternatives are. So, but it's like one of those things, it's easy when you know how, like my mom is
Mhm.
famous saying. Um, but for most people, it's like, well, we've never been shown because most people didn't grow up with the family who invested. I certainly didn't.
Mhm.
And it's not part of our education in school. And only kind of now with the social media and everything, it's becoming more part of the narrative, which is amazing to see so many other like female finance educators in the space. And like it's beautiful to see so many women stepping into this arena. But we have to get over the fear of perfectionism as well, and just trust ourselves and know, there is some kind of key fundamental things to know. Hopefully women listening to this podcast will kind of get the light bulb moment of actually saving. It's not the smart way to manage your money at all. We've been kind of sold that idea, but it's not true, and we're missing out a massive piece on our own financial freedom by believing it.
Yeah. And what is one thing, looking back at your life and like how you work with money and the energetics piece, what is one thing you would have done back then? Something you didn't know then that you know now that you would have started and our listeners at home might not be doing. And you're like, listen, guys, you got to do this. The first thing you got to do is this.
I would say increasing my financial thermostat. It was so low. I was expecting and comfortable with such a low amount of money in my life. And I remember my first salary as a chartered accountant, having studied finance in a big consulting firm, was like 26,000 euros. And I was so grateful. And I thought that was a lot of money. And so I never even questioned to negotiate it. I never thought that there could be something better. I didn't know that that was, relatively actually very little. And so I think in hindsight, like what I'll be teaching Little Miss here is your thermostat, what you're comfortable with earning is going to dictate so much. Because even when I would see people do really well and I'd be like, oh, I'd love to be a millionaire, I didn't believe it. And I didn't have the nervous system capacity to ever hold it. If I was one of those people who had won the lotto, I probably would have blown through it pretty quickly, and it would have been pushed back out because I would not have been comfortable with that amount of money at the time.
Mhm.
I think the thermostat is a really big one. I take women through this, like it's a very simple visualization to check where your thermostat's at. And it's so fascinating to see, like, if our desire is financial freedom, like we can calculate that number, we can see what that is. And then we tune into, well, what's your thermostat set at? And we can see this gap between your desire is financial freedom, which, depending on your lifestyle and your ambitions, it will differ for everyone, what everyone, it will differ for everyone what that number is. But if your thermostat's down here, then we have to close that because we're never going to reach financial freedom if it feels unsafe in our
Yeah.
bodies. Nervous system practices like that I love, EFT tapping, breath work, hands down, two of my favorite things. I studied breath work with Revelation breath work over it. They were in LA at the time. Moira Moynihan, just dreamy, like amazing, her and her husband. So breath work has been really transformational. And then EFT tapping, it's just something I take into everything with me. Super powerful for nervous system work, for resetting that thermostat, for allowing yourselves to expand into like a bigger awareness and like acceptance of money, because even when I work with women around the strategy side, it's like we want to make sure that as we're getting our finances, because this can happen quite often, as we're getting our finances organized and we're then seeing our money grow and it's like invested and that's like awesome and we're building wealth, we have to make sure that we're doing the inner work so we can like energetically hold the increase in abundance because otherwise, and I've seen it time and time again, the car breaks down or the dog has to go to the vet all of a sudden or there's something breaks down in the kitchen, there's a flood. And it's like our expenses all of a sudden start to increase as our income or our wealth increases. So we need to be aware. And if anyone's listening, is like, oh my God, that happened to me, it's likely, possibly, a thermostat needs to be reset and increased so we can hold the amount that we're attracting now.
That's so interesting. It's reminding me of like I guess two different things are coming to mind. Just like you said, like holding that abundance and being able to hold what you have, but also is it similar to having that ceiling? Like, okay, I've made this amount of money and I've met my goal and I just can't shoot past it. Are
Yeah.
those the same or are they different?
Yeah, no, similar capacity limiting. Because it's just like what we are, and it's so crazy. Like I say this to my partner when I talk about money and safety, and he's always like, well, who feels unsafe with millions? And I'm like, I know it might sound strange, but consciously we might be like, yes, I want like a multi-million-dollar business, and that's gonna be so exciting. But if unconsciously, or like if we're in our subconscious, and one of our beliefs is like a fear around that much responsibility. Or what I've seen come up is like, but I don't want to pay more taxes. Or,
Interesting.
right. So, or like, if I make more money than family members, like, will they disown me or will they try and take it from me? So there's all these like really interesting fears that can come up, these beliefs that we start to uncover that can be just blocking that next level. Because that's all it is. And I always tell women, like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. There's like you're all like everyone's good. Like because sometimes women have come to me and they're like, am I broken? Like, what is wrong? Manifestation isn't working for me. I'm like, no, it's just some programming. It's just programming. We just need to shift the programming and that's it. And then things will start to shift for you. Um, yeah.
And actually, you're bringing to mind a memory that I had. So, my first car I ever bought myself was this like pre-owned BMW, and I was so excited about it, right? And this was, I think, right when I got my first job. And as I'm driving to work, I'm like, oh my gosh, someone's going to notice and they're going to say, she doesn't deserve that car. Like all of these things keep playing in. And I remember just someone who was so fearful of like being visible and having people get annoyed or angry at me or that type of thing. If you are that type of person as well and you're listening, like it really does make you want to stay smaller. And it took a lot of the mindset work that you're talking about to be like, no, I deserve this. I worked hard at this. I deserve to expand and it's okay. So I really think it's wonderful how you're helping women like identify the specific fears that are holding them back because I think there's so many layers to it. And once you start to unpack one and then you heal that, you rewrite it, then another one pops in. You're like, oh my gosh, I never noticed this? So I think it's amazing that that is what you are helping people with because as someone who loves energetics and is into energy, I think that that is huge.
Yeah, it is. And I'm only laughing. I was like, when you're talking about the beliefs, it's like the whack-a-mole thing when they keep popping up. And it's like, wait, I thought I had dealt with that before. And it's like, well, we
Yeah.
did at this level, but now there's like another level of expansion. We're going to have to deal with it. But I've just launched a new group coaching program for women. And one of the first things that we do is this good girl detox.
Mm,
One of the things that I actually get women to go through is let's see where that good girl, which is a list of beliefs, right? A layer of beliefs. Let's see where that's popping up for you in your life. And so we identify like what's their number one archetype. So let's say perfectionist or another one that pops up quite in very dominant as well as like the savior complex, to be there
mm,
for everyone else, very self-sacrificing kind of energy, like to the point of depletion. And so what we do then is go back through the last 12 months and we just say, okay, well, let's see every time that programming has popped up and what does it cost you? And when we
mm.
start to actually see the financial cost, the opportunity cost, the emotional, the time cost, you'd be amazed at how quickly women are then ready to go, oh, okay, like I am done with this belief. The good girl needs to go. And then we get like real leverage over it because sometimes we can be like, yeah, I know I have this limiting belief about something, but it's almost like this like passiveness of like I don't really know what to do with it, or we don't really see the actual consequence so upfront for ourselves. When we start to see everything it's costing us, and then we go, well, what's that cost to my family? For like any moms that I work with, you really start to get into the okay, now I have a deep why as to why it's time to let go of this and step into a new version of myself. And then we have a lot of fun with the identity shifting, which I shared at the start was one of the biggest transformations for me. Shift into this new identity, an elevated version of ourselves. And then like, well, how does she act? Does she
Mm.
play small? Is she embarrassed about driving around in a BMW looking
Hmm.
fabulous? It's like, no, of course she's not. So we can just shift an identity and then it doesn't require motivation or to even unpick all the old beliefs. It happens so much quicker.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Incredible. And before we get into the spirit segment, what is the best thing women can do right now to start building their wealth?
Ooh, I would say have a money date. Um, this is just like a shift in mindset around how you look at money.
Mhm.
Um, we are in a relationship with it, right? Whether we think we are or not, like it's an energy, your energy, like we're in a relationship with money. And for so many women, when they first come to work with me, that might be a slightly distant relationship, even if they're really good at making money. So I work
Mhm.
with a lot of very high earning women, but they still might not feel very comfortable when it comes to managing their finances themselves, or they might have outsourced it to a partner, or maybe someone else had taken care of it for them, or it's just something they don't really look at. But having a money date, and I'm always like, romance your money, like make this fun. It doesn't have to be like an accounting date. Like, I mean, I'm an accountant and I'm still like, that sounds like such a snooze fest. Like, I don't want to sit. in for an accounting meeting. But like make it fun and like get your crystals out, make yourself some like have a little cacao ceremony for yourself with your money if you want. Put on your favorite music, like whatever it's gonna make you feel good. And then sit down with your money and be like, right, what's been happening? Like what's coming in? Where's it been going out? Like if money is energy, is it going out to places that fill up my soul? Because
Mm.
I'm not one for budgeting. I don't like the word. It feels very lack and limitation, but I am about intentional spending. Like, are you actually sending your money to places that fill you up, like light you up, are in alignment with your values? Or are we leaking money to places that we don't want to? And just like we wouldn't want to do that with our energy, like we wouldn't want to leak our energy into silly places that
Mm-hmm.
don't support us. We don't want to do the same with our money. So having a money day, sitting down and then, writing out your money goals. Like, well, what is it you want to do? Do you have like a number that you want to reach? Do you have like, is it a home? Is it trips you want to take? Is it you want to get to financial freedom in the next 10 years? Like, what is it for you? Get clarity. We know the power of your intention, right? So once you have a focus, then your brain, like that servo mechanism, the brain starts to go, okay, that's our focus, that's our target. Let's subconscious mind kicks in, then we start to see opportunities to fulfill the goal. So get clear on your money goals. And then if you're not investing yet, start to see, well, what money is just sitting there that actually could be going to work for me. And as a new mom, I'm like, let my money take the night shift
Mm-hmm.
because I want my money to work harder for me than I ever have to work for my money in my life. And investing, as we've talked about, is such a powerful way to do that. Like, let your money go out there and be doing the hard work and making you more money instead of just sitting there where it's actually losing value.
Mhm. Now you touched on one thing, and the thing popping in my head is because I hear it all the time from my own clients is the goal setting. I have this goal, right? I have this goal that I want to make this amount of money or whatever it is by this time. If you don't meet the goal, how do you stay in that elevated mindset where you're like, I know it's still possible for me when you can't see it yet. You didn't meet it yet.
Okay, so I'm really glad you actually brought this up because
Hmm.
when I say like set a money goal,
Hmm.
like the reality is money is only the byproduct of what we do. And so anytime I'm setting goals, I actually write impact goals instead. Like, how many women would I love to be able to serve this year? Because I know if I can do that, which is the whole reason I'm in business anyway, then the money follows as a result. Where if I go, okay, my goal is to be making X amount this year, it kind of actually, for me at least, kind of shifts the focus away from my heart's intent in the
Hmm.
business a bit. And so then if it's like, okay, well, I had desired to serve 1,000 women and we served 800. Okay, well, we didn't reach our goal, but I can be so freaking grateful and have so much appreciation and like love in my heart for all of those amazing women that I served. And now let's make it a fun challenge to see next year, well, what can we do?
Hmm.
So at least for me, that's my way of like reframing it and shifting from ever feeling like a disappointment of not achieving a goal. Like just because it hasn't been achieved now doesn't mean it's not possible. I would just reflect and go, okay, well, I'll write my goal down. Is there any reason that I think this wasn't possible for me? Because oftentimes, if we have like any kind of limitations around a money goal that we have, a great way to find out what it is, because sometimes we can't tell ourselves, is just write down on your journal, like, all right, my goal is to make X. And then what are all the reasons I don't think I can do this?
Hmm.
And usually around the third or fourth one that comes up, like that's the actual belief. And so, firstly, let's not go into the place of like disappointment or shame or anything. I like to shift more to impact anyway. So it kind of removes that from the focus. And then secondly, just do some journaling work and be like, all right, was there anything there that was actually blocking me that I can have a wonderful opportunity to identify and then move past? Cool, let's see what the next year brings. So it's never a failure, it's never a bad thing because the purpose of a goal anyway isn't to necessarily reach the number. It's to see, well, who do I get to become? What do I have to learn? How do I have to show up differently? It's all that journey. Like I remember climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and that lesson was just so obvious to me because it was like 4 or 5 days up, and it was the most beautiful journey up, like waking up above the clouds, like stunning. But when we got to the summit, it was like overcast, foggy, couldn't see anything. And I just remember thinking, like, God, if I had just been so focused on reaching the goal, reaching the top, get to the top, like, and miss that whole journey, like, what would have been the point? And so I keep that in mind as well as, you're going through life and you're setting goals. It's, yes, that's the target. It will happen, but enjoy the journey, enjoy who you get to become on the way, and use it as an opportunity to see if there's anything that is there as a limitation that you get to grow through.
That's a beautiful story. And I think the thing that really stuck with me was the journey is following your purpose. And your purpose, like you said, goes deeper than just the money. The purpose is sometimes intertwined with money. Like the money's a bonus, right? And it's a necessity too, but the purpose is your sole purpose. And I like how you reworded it, like in my head, the words fun challenge, how you were saying, like make it a fun challenge
Yeah.
to, change it next time. So I like that too.
Yeah, because even Stephanie, like when I worked in finance and we'd be working with companies who are making multi-millions, like big Wall Street investors, like funding these companies like massively, we'd still sit down in a boardroom. And I always remember one of our the chairman being like, our goals, like even as we're projecting goals for the company, well, they didn't call them goals, but like
Yeah.
what they were setting as targets, it can never be the money because they were like, the money is the byproduct of us doing a set of things very, very well. Because what if you set the goal as money, what's that? Like, what are you meant to be doing? How do you go and get that goal besides robbing a bank?
Hmm.
Like that's the byproduct of you turning up and doing a certain things in a certain energy with, this certain kind of expectation. So it's always the byproduct. So even me, as much as I talk about money, and yes, like set your money goals so you have an idea of where you're heading, but just remember, like that is the byproduct of you doing other things really well, which is probably the reason you got into business, especially
Mhm.
for listeners on your show, I'm imagining.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, what is one thing you always include in your daily routine that keeps you spiritually grounded and balanced that might help others do the same?
Ooh, I love this question. So it's probably a little bit like an unusual answer, but
Hmm.
since becoming a mom, like your time is definitely more scattered.
Hmm.
Did. And so I've started just waking up way earlier than I ever used to. So usually like when if she wakes to feed around 5, I'll be up and then I get out for we have a gym, it's about maybe 15-20 minute walk. And I walk to the gym in the morning and it's the most beautiful, peaceful time. Like the birds are out chirping, it's still dark, and I got to just have an hour of just me. And I'm sitting in the gym and I have my money affirmations. And before I start my thing, I'm actually doing my tapping in the stretching area. So I'll do like my nervous system work there. I'll do my tapping. Then I have like a talk with the universe on the way home. And it's just time that I get to pour back into me and invest in me outside of the house, to physically leave and just like, all right, just
Yeah.
like center and ground. So I know the idea of like being in the gym might not sound like the most spiritual venue, but I have found it really, really powerful and just like finding a way to shift, past practices that may have happened in the past
Hmm.
when I wake.
Yeah.
Maybe not so possible these days, but yeah, that's been really working for me.
Awesome. And do you have a favorite story regarding your connection to spirit?
Yeah. Well, something that does pop to mind is I was doing a trek across the Sahara Desert. We were raising funds for these kids' charities that I was really working with at the time. And you're out in the desert with nothing around you for, I think we were 10 days out there.
Wow.
And there was just a small little group of us, boots on, camels next to us, blazing heat, like 40 degrees Celsius, and nothing. You couldn't, like, there was nothing but sand and dunes. So you have a lot of time to just be because you have nothing to do but just walk for 8 hours a day and then camp
Hmm.
and fall asleep under the stars, which was magical. And I remembered that experience. it really just gave me the space to go inwards in a different kind of way, to have that kind of space and time. And the question that really came up for me was, do I like myself without all the labels?
Mhm.
And this was at a point in my career where I had been, all of a sudden gone from being okay, but to making a lot of money in finance, and um, which was a flex in my 20s to say, like, I was buying all the designer stuff, and I was, I had my Rolex, and I was living in this beautiful apartment in London, and like I had all these things, and I had a great position in a firm and was well networked. So I had all these like labels, like literally labels, and then
Mhm.
just who I was. And being on the trek with boots, and you look like everyone else, covered in sand. No one gave a crap if you had labels or what your position was or who you knew, because all we were doing was walking for 8 hours. And it just really gave me this moment to detach from everything material, everything external, and be like, do I like me as me without anything? Because I had nothing, just like your bag on your back for a week. And that was a really, really powerful question. And it helped me really actually with the transition from going from corporate into starting my own business, was that real connection to who am I? Because when you leave your corporate career and you start a business, you're all of a sudden nobody then. You go from like big name company and labels and all the stuff that goes with it. And then all of a sudden you're just you, and you're starting a business and you're looking to impact and help people and do all that, but all the other stuff is gone. And getting to be able to answer through that journey of, yeah, I really do. I like who I am. I like my values. Um, like I would say this as a healthy, like I love myself in a very healthy way. And I think that was a beautiful sense of like freedom that it gave me to be able to transition into the next phase of my life. And I think that was probably a very standout moment of connection.
That's a beautiful one. It seemed like it really anchored you into like your new chapter.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
amazing. Now, what is one final piece of advice you have for listeners who are trying to improve their spiritual well-being?
Their spiritual well-being. Um, to see investing as an act of self-love.
Mm.
And I know I could go so many other paths given our conversation, but I think investing is something that we don't talk about enough. And I really see it as a very feminine energy thing. So often it's seen as like a very masculine thing to do, but it's having your money work for you. So I don't know what could be more feminine than allowing your money work as you receive abundance, doing whatever it is that you truly want to do. And seeing having this relationship with money truly as an act of self-love, because your money is there to take care of you and look after you so that you can do the best taking care and looking after you that you want to do. So I would encourage listeners to, if they haven't already, step into that space and claim their identity as an investor.
Beautiful. And where can everyone go to learn more about you?
So I have a YouTube channel just under Laura Tynan. And then I have tons of free, obviously videos and everything up there, loads of trainings. And then all the rest of my social media links are in my description on there.
Amazing. Now, before we go, I pulled a card that's going to represent you or a conversation, and then there will be a message for everyone else at the end. But I love it because you got the Six of Cups, and what's standing out is like self-love and feminine that you just, talked about just now. But also, what it reminded me of was like as if each of these cups was like a belief that, right, women have about themselves or about money. It's how you're having them go back in time to really think about it and replace whatever was like glass half empty with glass half full and like positivity and joy and all of that stuff and really helping them to encourage that financial freedom. So,
Yeah. Stephanie, that is gorgeous.
yeah.
Beautiful. I love that.
And the message for everyone else is just be open to the energy of receiving and knowing that you are worthy of abundance and looking at yourself and your life in more positive ways and noticing the beauty that was once in the past, but is also coming up in the future. So, Laura, thank you for joining us and for all of your wisdom.
This was beautiful. Thank you so much for holding such a gorgeous space to have this conversation.